No, it's hard to accept praise. It really is.
Yeah.
It's like...
well, you want the work to sort of speak for itself and not draw attention.
It's important for people to know, the catalyst behind the work. I mean, there's definitely the artist who, of course, none of this would be possible without, their creativity. But you are the reason this got rolling. Like, you're the one who created the opportunity. Like, Josh has been curating the songs for many years, and...
He made the phone call.
He made the call.
So.
But... you put that opportunity out there quietly somehow. Like, so how did that get started? Like, how did Josh know to call you?
Before the pandemic, we tried a couple of sessions. One session, maybe. I don't know. He had some ideas he wanted to get down. Booked some time. And he wasn't totally satisfied with, I guess, how it was coming together. So... we left that. A couple years went by. He called up again last Christmas, end of 23. He said he wanted to pick it up, and we booked some time and set up, and he was just ready, in a way that, the mental preparedness was there in a way that and the need to commit stuff to tape that hadn't been there before was there now. And within 2 weeks, we had the body of a record. And for me, I mean, it was just like setting up mics, getting a good tone, and then getting out of his way. Just, letting him do his thing, what he needed to. So. And
those tracks, like, they were demos, essentially, right? Like, you didn't just add recordings on top of them. They were re-recorded with new energy and other musicians.
You go for keeper takes when you're even just the raw capture, just getting ideas down. And then, there was about half the record we broke out and put a band together. Brett and Doug and you and a couple other people.
A couple?
Well,
how many people?
Josh was in on some live stuff, right?
What is the actual count of the number of musicians that are on this album? Nobody knows?
No.
Impossible.
I hope we credited everyone. I'm not sure.
Ethan Rook got credited for clapping on it. So
really?
I think okay,
all right.
Left no stone unturned.
Good, yeah. Because I was trying to keep a running, order of list of people who contributed.
I think let's just say about 20 people.
But there were some parts got phoned in too, so I didn't know.
Right, yeah. Counting all those heads.
Yeah.
And fingers and whatever other body parts they might have used.
Yeah. So but we put a live band together essentially, and got a few tunes live off the floor, which is like down here is great because we were playing without headphones and we could just position amps and players around where we wanted them. And
you really like our basement.
I do.
Yeah.
I've kind of moved in. I've made it my own now.
He slowly brings more and more each time he comes. Yeah. Before you know it, he's proposing. He's part of the family now.
Well, it probably looked like I was moving in, right?
Yeah. I love it. It's great. Our studio here is like, the underbelly, the basement, and yours is like the crow's nest.
Yeah, it's It's
the sunny little perch on Upper
up in
Broadway.
the attic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got that covered, those bases,
And it has such a light and airy feel up there that Josh considered his sessions there like therapy. Which was really cute to me.
It is some of that, It's I mean, we talked quite a bit. You start down the path of tracking a song, and I said, okay, hold on. When you wrote this, what else was going on in your life, and trying to channel those memories and those energies into his performance, and he was able to.
Did you have a couch for him to lie on?
Yeah, I actually did. There really is one. We did some work from there, yeah. But regressing to the point where it's like, okay, why did I write this? What was I feeling at the time? And I spoke to him about, just setting the mental stage before the mics get turned on and all that, and just trying to, and then you just try to be invisible to the process and let them you know.
That's what you do.
Dig. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're support, but, you know.
It's good.
But, you want to draw those emotions out.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. So you have a very interesting process. Like, I'm a novice. Yeah. I don't know if there's a method or if like a considered method or if it's just who you are, because I see you as like this sort of humble genius, you know, like you don't insert yourself too much into the recording, and then what you just described like really, I think, encapsulates it. Like you sort of you make suggestions, you hear things, and you create an opportunity, you listen, and then you see what comes.
I have to listen.
Yeah.
You know. No. There is a process, in a way, I picked up from working with other people, other like really good producers and engineers.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's sort of my thumbprint can be kind of heavy in terms of editing and mix work and all that. That I try to divorce myself from performance, just not lead, you know, the dance, but just be kind of. I'm the one to listen. No judgments, no anything. Just catch it.
Yeah, I found it really interesting that in my recording sessions with you, we never did an exhaustive number of takes. Like, I think at most we would do 3. Like
that seems to be the magic number.
It's the magic number. And in the past, you know, I've had, you know, yeah, you end up getting frustrated when you do too many takes. Yeah. Or you start losing that spark or that energy, and I feel like it's almost what you just want to come back to it another day if you didn't get it in that number of takes.
I like people to take chances and not feel safe, and or phone it in, but kind of, you know,
don't get too rigid.
Yeah, get off the map. I mean, if there's a note I'm hearing, you know, we'll nail it, and I'll make sure I have it to use, you know, if we have options on the back end. But after that, just like, okay, now what else? What else can we do? What can we explore? Something about those early takes that contain something over rehearsed well.
Yeah, so I want to get back to that. Like, you started with just Josh.
Yes. Well, so did you. I mean, we all did in a way.
Yeah. We started with just Josh. Actually, yeah, I called Josh for a guitar lesson. Yeah. That's how we met in Jim Thorpe. Yeah, so, like, I was on the periphery of this whole process, so I would hear things, you know, through, like, as they were unfolding.
Yeah.
And witness, you know, and what I saw was a lot of, like, you saying like, yeah, I hear strings on this, or just like you let your imagination flow, and you became like the director in a lot of these tracks where you were proposing broad new additions to these original raw tracks that really in the end gave them like a whole other sound. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Josh was incredibly generous in terms of, like, you know, I didn't want him to do anything to steer or corrupt his vision, but that we were kind of on this journey together and finding the way of the record. There were a few tunes in particular that I thought could stand from a little more ambitious arrangement, flying in different colors and players and, you know, stuff like that.
Ambitious is a good word.
Well, it was, you know, some of that string stuff, it was a little abstract when you're thinking essentially a straight-ahead folk or alternative folk record.
I mean, they got, like, wall of sound big, some of this
there
stuff.
There was a core of tunes that I thought kind of made up this, almost the experimental heart of the record. And, you know, asked him, I said, hey, what if we did this and tried that and do that? And he was wide open to, you know, exploring that stuff, those arrangements, and bringing in Bizarre Star, who were...
Bizarre Star Strings.
Oh, wow.
Out in Portland.
What can you say? They're just amazing. They're the best.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
They really add, like, a richness to this album. Them and Caitlin.
Caitlin, yeah. She was just...
From Serene Green.
I wasn't prepared for for how good she was.
Does she do the violin work on Before the Snow?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bizarre Star's on that too. They're handling the lower triad stuff, and then she's dancing around on top.
She haunts that song.
It reminded me very much of, Arabian Nights from Korsakov.
Okay, yeah.
And there are these high string stabs through, like, just, this lush reverb. And she came up with that pretty much on her own. It would just kind of remind me of it. I'm like, whoa, I never thought of that direction for the tune, but let's embrace it, let's run with it. So, I mean, yes, she brought a lot of that on her own. And she just, I told Josh, she swung for the fences, and really connected. Yeah.
We've got a nice community of musicians here.
And it's so great to work with, like, these Appalachian colors, getting to paint with those a bit on this.
Ooh. Josh drew on a lot of these connections, in the community, and, friends, family, and then
free range folk,
right?
So I think everybody got having the players from free range folk guest on this was great because you could sort of almost rearrange them like puzzle pieces. It's like, oh yeah, you usually do this, but now we're gonna have you do this. But there's some things like I remember getting backing vocals from Kevin, and I'd usually only heard him in like a lead vocal capacity, and I'm like, oh wow, he dances around notes. He's like a blues singer. But there's something just like, just in the DNA of free range folk that is like is so distinguishable. I remember had the toughest time getting Sean on because he was so busy with work. I think we ended up delaying stuff. Sean was like, I give you my blessing, get another mandolin player to do this stuff, but we finally found a corner of the record for him I'm so glad we got him on.
What track did he end up on?
He ended up on Permanent Wave. He was doing vocals.
Cool.
So, and like I said, Brett is somebody I'd worked with him before briefly a little bit, but we really got to kind of get under the hood with some of these tunes, and just his economy and his understanding of harmony and he has a really well developed ear and just can pick things out and put things together, and so it was wonderful getting him on the way he did. Doug is like always.
Yeah, he was like a collaborator in the orchestration. Like he definitely was willing to get under the hood. What I called him the mechanic today.
Yeah, he reminds me of Daedalus in a way. Just the way he'll lay these lows and then this sprightly stuff on top. He thinks and he plays like an arranger.
Yeah.
So it was so good to have.
Yeah, I bet that was.
I can't imagine doing anything without him.
Aww.
It's true. I mean, he's that good.
Yeah, and he's got the attention to detail, I think, that you appreciate, and the two of you really have an interesting
he
dynamic.
He can lean in, he can pull back, and there's coming up to a chorus, suddenly he'll crescendo and create these swells where. Yeah.
Both of you are humble enough to not hitch yourself hitch your wagons to the outcome. You know what I mean? Like you're willing to entertain what the other has to say.
Everybody gives each other room, but it's all in support of the song.
Yeah.
It's like if anybody does something to step on the vocal, it's like we all, everybody appreciates that, and it isn't about standing out and winning fans or there are things in arrangements where I'd be in the shower and going, oh, the horn part should do it's like
the shower's the best place for ideas.
Yes,
you get into that flow state. I think.
Completely. So I would sometimes grab that stuff, like with Kyle, I'm like, give me an A flat here and do this and stuff, but grab that quick and then okay, what do you hear going on, and just giving people, because I think they feel if they can contribute something, they've given something.
Kyle O'Brien. He recorded on this.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
So you should see his socks.
I hear he's kind of a jerk.
You should see his socks. So I love him. I love Kyle. He's,
Did he record on this project as
well?
He
was on a couple of tracks.
Man, who wasn't on this project? I think.
Exactly. Brad was on.
Yes.
Brad is so good. He's got this shuffle feel that, like, you know, I told Josh, it's like, you can't teach that. That comes from like being, you know, 16 or 17, listening with that, and you just absorb it. But his feel, and you know, it's just second to none. It's perfect for what you guys are doing. Kyle and Doug, you know, I've done multiple things with. And you just develop a shorthand over time where it's like you can scream out, you know, I want to make it sound more purple.
We don't even feel the need, like, for Kyle to come to rehearsal. Like, he just shows up. He knows where he's needed, where he's not.
You don't tell him where it is.
Yeah.
Or when it's happening. You know. He just finds it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but he's just, you know, like I said, you know, encyclopedic knowledge of music and just good people
Genius.
you want around.
And fun.
Yeah.
So fun. Your D. Patrick is your professional name.
Okay.
Daedalus Productions.
Sure.
Yep. So that's how they find you. Daedalus.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell me the story about that.
Daedalus?
Daedalus and Icarus, right?
He was the father of Icarus. Right. He was considered the first engineer. He built the. Well, it sounds kind of pretentious now talking about it. He built the maze that housed the Minotaur.
Oh, right.
And he was considered the first engineer by many. So.
But the story of his son is the one that I was referring to with the wings. There was these mechanical wings.
It flew too close to the sun.
Hung together with wax.
Melted, and he fell to Earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Poor Daedalus. So it's a little tragic. So he's the first engineer, but it's tinged with, like.
Yeah. Well, he didn't know. He put on the wings. Maybe it'll work. You know. Yeah. This record was, you know, we didn't go out with a particular vision in mind, but we found it along the way, and you know, Mark again was able to sew that up nicely. Yeah.
You brought Mark Plati on to this project, and that was a game changer,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it really added an energy to the project. It was, I mean, we were cruising along just fine, you know, and then when that came, it was like, oh. Wow. And, you know, he added a polish, I think, you know, to the final tracks.
Yeah.
And the thing that I loved, that I witnessed, that I was hoping for, was that his distance from the material...
brought some objectivity.
Right. Brought some objectivity. And he exercised that. And was allowed to on the whole album. Like it started with like one track. You know, you heard that amazing track, "The Drought" with Ada.
Started with Drought,
father-daughter duet.
And there was something, you know, was describing to Josh. There's a chordal sequence in Drought. There's a transition that reminded me of that Bowie tune, "Slip Away," that Mark played on, at least the live version. So I sent it to Josh, and he's like, you know, Josh had tried to take a couple passes at it. It was a little. I thought it needed a little more movement. I tried something that was too busy, and I just said, well, you know, it kind of reminds me of that. Wonder if I should call Mark and see if he can guest on it. So I sent Josh a YouTube clip, and I said, I'm kind of here's something like along these lines. And he's like, great, you know, who do you want to play it? I'm like, well, him. You know, we'll get him. He's like, can we do that? I'm like, I'll call him. And Mark and I had been done several things over the years and kept in touch. And you know, I can't say enough great things about him. Just a fantastic engineer and mixer.
How did you meet him?
I was working out of a fairly busy commercial room in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, early aughts, late 90s maybe. And I remember there was a slew. What?
Was it Glassworks?
He was at Looking Glass.
The Looking Glass, that's it.
I was at another room a few blocks from him, and there was just a slew of projects right in a row that would start in the room I was in and be finished by him on his desk. And I just remember we'd see work coming back, and it was like Mark Plati. Kept seeing this name and put it together. Oh, that's the guy who did Earthling for Bowie. So I met him probably 2004, 2005, maybe earlier than that. And then we just did something together in the teens, kept in touch, and he just had the right feel for bass play. I mean, you're a bass player, so you understand there's a contrapuntal element that you need to hold down.
You used the word "I understand" or phrase "I understand," and then you use some strange words.
Counterpoint.
Oh,
so you're telling a story, but you're rooted. Mm-hmm. But then he has these fills, these these upper harmonies that are just absolutely lyrical, and dive bombs and stuff like that. These slides, glissandos, and I was like, that's what we need. And luckily, well, he got back. I sent him the tune. He got right back, and he was on board. And then he went on vacation. He came back. He's like, I want to make sure that track's sitting all right with you. And he's mentioned, oh yeah, and if you need any mix work done, and normally this is a guy you got to book months out, and he had some time right away. Said, if we can sew this up in a few weeks, I'll mix the project. I'm like, we can't pass this up. Grab him, do it. And so texted Josh. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Bringing in a ringer. 'Cause I was set to mix the project, so it's something I had to pivot to prepping these tracks for somebody else. But what he brought to them was just extra dimensional.
It reminded me of theatrical, like a soundtrack,
something very cinematic
very cinematic.
There's something visual about it. I mean, I've joked around about it being, it's like watching a John Ford movie on an iPhone, right? And then you see it widescreen, and it's landscapes and vistas, and he really, he dialed that in. He brought it. I spoke to you about it, because I remember thinking about that Monet painting.
It's painterly, right?
It's painterly, where you in the foreground you have these thick brush strokes, in the background these thin ones. But he put stuff in the middle. He brought stuff that I had back wall. He brought that forward. He took stuff front wall, moved it back, and he created this extra-dimensional depth and perspective that was not there before. And that's credit goes to him for really being able to shape that the way he did.
And he's got some pretty excellent toys at his disposal, right? This.
Yeah. He installed a Neve 5088 a few years back.
And I interviewed him and spent a little time trying to figure out, like, what's so special? Explain it to me.
Yeah.
Let's just pretend I don't know anything about it.
Well, the last project I did with him was on tape.
Yeah.
We did that on Eddie Van Halen's old deck. But yeah, he just has he can sculpt with sound, and he does it so well. The dude's amazing. We were so lucky. It was such a gift to get him on board, get him on this. He was the guy who turned me on to Purple Audio.
Oh, right.
Before I met Andrew, who was in town. He was using the MC77
which was engineered by
Andrew
Roberts at Purple Audio and Jim Thorpe.
Yeah, Andrew does the build. Brett built my unit, actually. But yeah, we used the couple of Purple mic pre's and the MC77, and I think he's got a new EQ out now too, which I'm dying to try.
Cool.
Yeah,
small world.
Yeah.
Yeah, this big little town, and Jim Thorpe
somehow worked.